10-4. Well, all right, guys, welcome back to another Harmony Outdoor podcast. Today, we got a very special guest with us, Mr. Ron Jolly. Kind of a big mentor to a lot of us in a lot of ways that we may not even know about. This guy is one of the pioneers of the outdoor industry, filming and producing hunts, all the way back to, what would you say? Is it in the 80s, Mr. Jolly, when you started?
Actually, I started in 88. And
88.
Yep. Professionally.
So,
with a part-time
been doing
job.
it for a long time.
Professionally with a part-time job.
So, very, very excited to have Mr. Jolly on with us today. Brandon's back with us here. Brandon, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. It just to kind of get this started off on the right note. I was born in 1986, so we can officially say that Jolly's been toting around the camera nearly as long as I've been on this earth. So
I have been. I was doing it for fun before that, like you guys do.
There you go.
Yeah. So, this is kind of a big topic, especially for us, filming hunts and things like that. Jolly did it professionally. We just kind of do it for fun to promote, the cause, things like that, and for the love of the memories that we make in the outdoors. And I'm sure it was a lot of that from Mr. Jolly as well. But just kind of wanted to get him on here and talk hunting and filming in the outdoors, because this is a big deal these days. Everybody wants to hunt. Everybody wants to film. So we're going to let him jump in, tell a little bit about himself and about his career, and then we'll dive into some more details along the way. So, Mr. Jolly, shoot.
Okay. First of all, we're friends and have been friends for several years. And you know how I feel about this Mr. Jolly stuff. Everybody already knows I'm old, so we'll just pick it back up like we talk to each other, okay? Just call me.
All right, we'll call him Jolly.
There you go. Where do I start? I started professionally in 1988, with a part-time job with Will Primos working on the Truth 2. And that turned into a full-time job in 89. And I stayed there for to 96 when I met Tess. And I had the option of living the rest of my life with Tess or living the rest of my life on the road with Will Primos.
Ooh,
not a very
that's an easy
hard decision to make.
Easy decision for that one.
So
yeah.
from there, bummed around, did work for Woods Wise and Quest and Old Man Tree Stands. And then in, I guess, 2001, I was recruited by the state of Alabama to do the Outdoor Alabama television show and ended up finishing my career there. And I retired from the state after 16 years there. So been down lots of dirt roads, boys.
I bet.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, so I guess kind of backing up, I know a lot of us take things for granted with the sheer size of the equipment that we use nowadays. And I know me and Brett's personally got to hear a lot of your stories, but for those of you that haven't heard or know, Jolly, tell us a little bit about the camera setup and what you had to tote physically back in 1988 in order to capture a lot of what folks like us grew up watching on television on Sunday morning.
Well, I had it a lot better than Cuz Strickland did, because the year he did it for Primos, it was a dockable camera with a recorder pack on it, and I forget what the format was, but it had an umbilical cord that ran to the recorder. The camera you held here, battery pack was like toting a car battery. I think the whole deal weighed 70-something pounds. So when I started, it was very obvious to me that you didn't have the maneuverability that it took to get in a turkey's face or up a tree with a deer hunt or up a mountain to chase an elk or out in the middle of the break to do ducks. So I was, as a hobby, I had bought an SVHS Panasonic camera, and the quality was not as good, for sure. but the maneuverability made it way, way better. So
Right.
everything together with that camera rig was probably 20 pounds. And
Yeah.
for the first couple of years, that's what we shot the Truth 2, Truth 3, maybe even Truth 4 on, was SVHS. But we got creative, and the production house, which, by the way, there was no production on your laptop in those days. You had to take it
Right.
to an A/B roll production house, and that production house was in Jackson, Mississippi. It was called ImageWorks. Well, we would take our SVHS footage and dub it up to Beta SP, and it retained all the quality and added some actually to it. I don't know how magic worked, but the first Truth 2, 3, and 4, I guarantee you saw, and Truth 1 and 2 Deer, you saw were shot on SVHS. And then as we progressed, we knew we needed to upgrade quality, and we went to Beta SP. And that was a pretty cumbersome rig in itself. It all told, with the batteries that it took, you always had to have one, sometimes two spares, a couple of extra tapes because they were only 30-minute tapes. Big old heavy tripod. You were looking at somewhere between 40 and 50 pounds, and got pretty innovative about how we carried them around. We ended up with shoulder straps on both things, but for first 2 or 3 years, I would leave it on a tripod and set it on my shoulder, and it stuck up that far above my head going through the woods. But it just ate my shoulder up. So Jimmy Primos took a turkey hunting vest and took it and had a steel foam piece of sealed foam rubber put in there for it to ride on, and that's how we did it.
Yeah,
Come
that
a long
sounds
ways.
Yeah, sounds like we've come a long ways from that. Very interesting to hear a lot of these stories, and I know for me, Harmony was kind of based off of Will Primos's format to build calls, go hunting, use those calls hunting, and things like that. So I remember, Jolly, you've told me a few stories about how y'all captured the audio doing that. So tell us a little bit about how the audio worked, not just the video side.
Well, at first we did not have, wireless mics, which, personal mic. We relied on the mic on the cameras, and, realized when you get all the bumping noise and everything. So we went to what we called a throw mic. We had a 20-foot cord that plugged into the camera. You just put the mic out in front, and my whole
Just
career,
throw it, right?
Yeah, and my whole career, after that, I continued to use that, even when we had Sennheiser, personal mics to capture what the hunter was saying, because that mic out in front caught things that really, really enhanced the video and the production. For instance, we learned that that mic would pick up drumming, and that's hard to do. And the reason it did, it would record below 500 megahertz. And if you want to get drumming, that's what you got to have. So that was pretty innovative when turkey got up there close and you would hear it.
Yeah.
It blew people away. And one other thing I'd like to say here, looking back on it, I was pretty ignorant in all this, but good news is so was everybody else, and they couldn't call me out on it. And we kind of got to write the rules, because there were no rules. And
that's right.
What we did, and it was a develop as you go process. For instance, with turkeys, if you look at the Truth 1, there's a little bit of strutting and a little bit of gobbling on it. But after the Truth 2, if that turkey didn't put on a show and strut and gobble, he left on the cutting room floor. And Same with deer. Deer had to be close, tight, and doing something other than just walking by. And I
Right.
think that was what really put Primo's the True Series not on the map, but it popularized it to the point to where it became an integral part of Primo's Inc. rather than just a marketing tool. It became a viable product.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see that. I know, there was a lot of learning and stuff, that I got to do personally from those videos and turkey hunting. Long story that's not really about me and my situation, but I didn't really get to do a lot of turkey hunting. My dad was an avid turkey hunter, but just according to some family situations, never really got to do it a whole lot, So, but I remember, vividly those videos and learning, just different calls and how to, I would hear them and try to just mimic them, from the videos. So that was again a pretty vital part of my success growing up. So it paved the way for a lot of folks, that's for sure.
Don't know if I'm proud of that right now, but
I know for me, I would sit up all night long, and it was either Primo's Truth, VHSs, DVDs, whatever, or it was Jackie Bushman's Buckmaster, something like that, and just idolizing these guys kind of in a way, because the love of the outdoors was in me, and like Brandon, through situations I didn't really have those opportunities growing up to get out and do those things. So the thought process at 13, 14, 15-year-old me to be in a position that I'm in now, to be able to go out and film these hunts and be a part of the outdoor industry and hopefully try to make an impact wherever we can, whether that's the conservation of the wild turkey or helping youngsters understand the importance of conservation, not with just turkeys, but with all wildlife in general. But, watching these guys growing up was a huge impact for me. So when I got the opportunity to meet Mr. Jolly, I jumped at the opportunity to meet him, and thankful to become friends with him and his beautiful wife, Miss Tess.
Yeah.
Jolly, quick question for you. How would you compare today's hunting content versus your day, your heyday, your prime days? How would you compare that? Like, not so much quality, but just any difference that I guess that you could compare to.
I think it's much, much easier because, for instance, on a hunting video, that story of that particular hunt would usually be 7 or 8 minutes, to tell it from getting in the tree to dragging the deer out, 7 or 8 minutes. But there were 10 more of them on that hour-long video, or hour and a half, whatever it turned out. So you had to be very conscious that while you were there, while the light was the same, while the weather was the same, and all that, you had to get everything. So you had to think it through. It was more than just going and killing a deer. Whereas today, and what I do with TFT, I tell a story in 30 seconds, and with my phone, so it's
right.
To me, that's a breeze now compared to and that story could be anything, anywhere, at any time today. Then it was thought out. I had to have 10 kills to do a deer or turkey video. Most of the time, more than that. So that took a whole season, and throughout that season, you had to develop kind of a theme of what that video was going to look like. Whereas you pick up your phone, light a fire, shoot 30 seconds of video, boom, put it on Instagram, and there's a story. So to me, that process is a lot easier, and it's hard. I finally put my brain around it, but that little thing right there will shoot better video than any camera I ever toted professional.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, technology is definitely done wonders for us as videographers for sure.
Yeah, I'll say that, there's for me, this is just me personally. Um the first couple of successful hunts that we did, in a roundabout way kind of flopped because we had to make ourselves go back and think about a lot of the small details, exactly like what you're talking about, Jolly.
Yep.
Like you can have a successful kill, or a harvest, and if you just throw that kind of stuff on, today's modern day television, which is like YouTube, you're not going to get many views. And it's not, to me, it's not about the views, but it's about that form of marketing through the entertainment. But we had to
Right.
learn really quickly that there's a whole lot more to a story than just a successful hunt. There was the B-roll of getting ready and loading the truck up and all that stuff. And even if you do have that, if you don't put it together in video form in an interesting type way, then again, it's just going to flop. So we caught ourselves very quickly having to stop, back up, put a whole lot more thought into it, exactly like what you're talking about. You used to have to do, back when you started. The only difference is it's easier for us to get there now than it is, than it was for you back then. So I'll agree with that.
Well,
Yeah.
here's a thought. When with the Truth 2, 3, 4, 1, 2 deer, the goal was to sell 1,500 to break even, but the retail price was $39.95. So that was a marketing tool, and if we could sell 1,500, we were good. It was all worth it. But then
Right.
I can't remember the exact year, but I landed in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and called back to the office and got put in touch with Wilbur, and he says, I got good news and bad news. I said, which one you want to give me first? I knew better to ask for one or the other. I said, which one you want to give me first? He said, I'm going to give you the good news. Okay, what's that? Walmart just bought the 3 videos we're going to do this year. And they had tried to buy Primo's gear for several years. And Wilbur was a very sharp businessman, still is.
Yeah.
And he would not let them have the entire line because he knew what that would do to the base of mom and pop dealers all across the country. They could not compete. So the deal was he gave them 2 waterfowl calls, 2 duck calls, 2 deer calls, 2 elk calls, 2 predator calls, and the 3 videos. And they ordered, I think it was, the whole total was in the neighborhood of 180,000 videos, one pop. The whole deal was they had to be 1 hour long, and they retailed at $9.99. Now you go figure. It took me a little while but that was good news. Okay, it took me a little while to wrap my head around that. That was the good news.
Yeah,
the bad news was this was May the 8th, and I had to have them done by the end of July. So here I am in New Mexico for 2 weeks. That means middle of May. So I didn't have a lot of time. Luckily, I'd pretty decent at, imagining things out, and had them pretty much laid out by the time we got back from New Mexico and met that deadline. The next bad news is we had to go get a warehouse to put them in because 150,000 videos is a bunch. And
takes up a lot of room. Yeah.
So that turned
VHS.
that turned everything around, I think, at Primo's, because from that point on, it, sales just went up, and the company really got grounded and took off.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. So I know Wilbur was like not just anything made the cut. So I know Wilbur was pretty particular on, you got to call to that turkey and you got to have him gobbling, putting on a show and all that stuff. Tell us a little bit about some of the standards that had to be met to make the cut for these productions.
Well, we got good enough at it, and I was dumb enough to go every day, whether I needed to or not. And we had typically, if you wanted 12, we typically had 20 to pick from as, hunts. Some of them carried
Yeah.
over into another year. None of them ever got wasted, but turkey needed to be close. He needed to be vocal. He needed to strut. I mean, a turkey didn't strut, didn't have a prayer of making it ever from the time I got there. And it was just, that's what it took. And I was pretty good at it, and I'd been turkey hunting a long time, and I knew what you could and couldn't get away with. I was shocked that there's things that I learned that I still employ today. For instance, a lot of people don't know that, and this is just from a lot of years of doing this. I think when a turkey's approaching you, he's looking out there. He don't want to see that bobcat or coat when he's right here. He wants to see him out there. So he's looking out there, and he's also looking out there for that hen. But when he gets to where he knows that sound's coming from and gets settled, his focus shifts back out there. And I mean, I've picked up that whole rig, set it over here with turkey right there. Okay, bobcat didn't eat me. I ain't a bobcat, So
Yeah.
little things like that, you learn you can get away with stuff that, a lot of people think turkey see blink an eye. Well, maybe they can, but I very seldom ran one off blinking an eye. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Me.
it was pretty fun experience for us. I know me and Brandon got the opportunity to go to Texas on a TFT rifle hunt, and I'd be lying if I didn't tell you I was a little nervous filming this hunt with Mr. Jolly. But we had a good time doing that, learned a lot, and filming out in Texas is night and day from filming right here at the house for sure. But we had a good time doing that, learned a lot in the process. But so Jolly, how do you feel that your generation, what kind of impact do you think your generation put on the hunting content of today? Do you feel like it was a good thing for hunting, for the hunting industry?
It was a good thing. It was a good thing for the industry, and it's a good thing for the critters too. I'm kind of mixed on some of the things, mixed emotions about it. But bottom line, guys, if people don't hunt and buy licenses, the whole conservation model goes out the window. So that's the good side of it. And people have got to, whether you know it or not, when you buy a gun or a box of ammunition or archery equipment, yours 11% of that goes back to conservation funding in the states. So that's how all this got put back, because in the 20s, like 1920s, estimated population of wild turkeys in America was 30,000. So, somebody had to do it. Hunters stood up and said, hey, it's not just turkeys. It's bison, it's elk, it's waterfowl. They were being commercially hunted out of existence. And so those people got enough, made enough noise, and were paid enough attention to that in, I believe it was 1929, the Lacey Act was passed. And that prohibited transportation of game animals illegally harvested across state lines, which primarily started putting the kill on commercial hunting. And then in, I think it was 37, the Pittman-Robertson Act was passed, and that's when modern day conservation, as we know it, was first stood up, because that money's collected on the federal level, and distributed back to the states in a formula that's dictated by the number of licenses that state sold during that calendar or fiscal year. So that allowed the creation of the game agencies as we know them and the enforcement divisions within those agencies. And then all of a sudden, I mean, I can pull up the numbers here, but turkey population was in 300,000 instead of 30,000. And
30,000.
then,
Yeah.
and then by 2017, I think is an estimated high water mark, and all that come back, it was 7 million birds. Now, you think from, in
That's a lot of
less
birds.
than 100 years, you go from 30,000 to 7 million. And that's all on the backs of hunters, guys, and the state agencies. The NWTF garnered a lot of attention for that effort and pushed it and popularized it and garnered support for it. And God bless them for doing it, because, we wouldn't be where we are today. But then in 2020, hunters stood up again, because especially in the Southeast, you could see on my dirt, on your dirt, we knew there was a population decline, but we couldn't get anybody to talk to us about it. So we started TFT, and now, once again, that there's more energy and money available to figure out why and to fix what's going wrong with turkeys than there's ever been. So, hunters do these things. So am I proud of that? Absolutely. I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
Sure. That's something to be proud of. I mean, me personally, there's things that I know more about turkey nowadays than I would have ever known without TFT. So I can say that I'm better educated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's been
absolutely.
You got to be careful when you ask God to help you do something, because when He does, you better be hanging on, because 12 guys put up $300 a piece. Think of that. 4 years ago, this February, TFT was founded, and in 25 we'll be doing turkey work in 10, 11 states with research projects. Wow. Some of those in that 10, 11 will be coming to fruition, and we'll be getting that information. So above all that, no matter what we find with these studies and everything, it's already a win for the turkeys, because now it is acknowledged and accepted that there's a downward trend in populations. It's accepted, and everybody's discussing it, and everybody's ponying up to try to fix it. So if you could unite everybody behind that cause, which is really, really hard to do, everybody's got their own agendas, their own thoughts.
Yeah, that's for sure.
TFT has one. That's all we focus on, is figuring out and reversing this decline.
Yeah. There's more turkey research going on now than ever before.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. And you can thank
be a lot more.
Modern technology. Yeah. Yeah. You can thank modern technology and cell phones and the new way of video, and for a big hand in that, because again, that's, tying everything back into the videography side of stuff. That's, that it's really nice to have as much work being done, in modern day stuff as what's being done. So I know I'm thankful for that, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And the guys that pioneered this and started it and continued that mindset of conservation.
I was going to show y'all a picture, if I don't know how to translate here, but y'all, can y'all see that?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
That is Chuck Jones, me, Will Primos, and Cuz Strickland. Those were the first 4 guys there. And that was in Springfield, Missouri, when Wilbur was inducted into the Legends Outdoor Hall of Fame. And those 4 guys were in the room. I said, hey, we probably ought to get a picture of this because this might not happen again.
Yeah.
And Cuz said, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're all getting
Yeah. Do
pretty
you
long
still
in the
talk to a
tooth,
lot of
but
those guys a lot, Jolly?
not a lot. Not a lot at all. That's the first time I talked to Chuck in I guess a couple of years, and Wilbur and I always touch base on our birthdays or something special like that. Some
Yes, sir.
a friend's death or something, or some news-worthy thing. Primo's has moved to, I think, Bozeman, Montana now, and Wilbur's bought a house out there. I don't know. I think he's still going to be involved with the television side, and the television show came along after I was gone, and I'm glad of that because that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
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 Well, Jolly, tell us a little bit about your childhood and your love for the wild turkey. Really, I know that's your passion. Tell us a little bit about your childhood, growing up hunting with your dad, and I know a lot of these stories are in your book that me and Brandon both have taken the time to read and thoroughly enjoyed and recommended to a lot of people out there just because they hit home for us as well. But tell us a little bit
Absolutely.
about that and, what the turkey population was like back then and, some of those stories.
Well, I can sum up my feelings about it was I wanted to go every day. I wanted to be outside all the time. From the time I was a kid to now, I'm happiest outside. And I'm
Yeah.
fortunate enough to have a wife who's the same way and is better at it than me. But the turkey population, I only knew 3 turkey hunters when I got out of college. I only knew 3. And that was my dad and his 2 best friends. And they were tight. They deer hunted and all that. But come turkey season, they didn't speak. They didn't communicate or anything till the season was over, unless they pulled a practical joke on each other when somebody killed one.
Yeah.
But if we heard 2 turkeys gobble, we were happy. If we heard 3 over the course of a 2-week season, we had a great season. And my dad was very, very basic about it. He yelped 3 times, put the call in his mouth or rebuild his little mouth call, 30 minutes. He yelped 3 times and sat there. And that was not very exciting for a kid. But when I got out of college and got on my own and started realizing that you didn't have to do it that way is when I really fell in love with it, learning how to move and more aggressive with my calling and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those basics, though, of showing you that you don't have to do as much as what you think you do is very important because, again, coming from the set of glasses that I wear, growing up watching the Truth, Primo's videos and all that stuff, overcalling is a common thing now. And those are lessons that I know I had to learn the hard way. So,
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. And it's still kind of, the misconception of it is still kind of out there because when we edit these videos, who wants to sit there and just watch nothing happen,
Yeah.
So somebody
Yeah.
wants to hear some calling, some gobbling, or some shooting, or some strutting, or something. So the misconception, I think, is still there, but I think that's just kind of all part of the entertainment side of it, that people will actually sit and watch. But
Yep.
I know there's some folks these days, and we do it too. I mean, there's several hunts that we have that there'll be a 4 or 5 minute time span of just silence, and we'll kind of do a voiceover and basically say this is what we're doing and why we're doing it. Because a lot of turkeys we hunt are just smarter than most of the people we know. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's a valid point, Brandon, for sure.
I like to find those. Jolly calls them in his book, calls them volunteers. I like to try to find the volunteers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh me.
Yep. Jolly, tell us a little bit about your book and the thing you're doing with Preston.
Oh, well, the book was a combination of several years over time thinking I wanted to do a book and never really having the time to sit down and do it until I retired. And it's just I call it a living life book as a turkey hunter. It's just my life through the Primos days and back when my dad was teaching me, and in my time when Tess got involved in my life. And it's mostly about the people. There's a fraternity in the sport we call turkey hunting like no other. I mean, turkey hunters, you don't have to ask a man if he's a turkey hunter. If you talk to him 2 minutes and you're a turkey hunter, you know he's a turkey hunter. It just comes up. It just comes out. And the strength in all that is there's nobody on this earth more willing to work for and help turkeys than turkey hunter. So I'm proud to be a part of that fraternity. The book has some really what I call heart-tugging stories of reality, in my life with a little 11-year-old girl, Ashley Hancock, and my dad at the end of his life, and Gary Gannis. And so I tell everybody there's 3 or 4 places that you might have to have Kleenex. It might make you cry, but I wanted it to, because we do all this. Emotion plays a huge role in all my work. I strive to touch hearts with everything I do. Hearts. Mind second. Hearts. If I can get your heart behind something to believe in it, then you're not going to waver. That doesn't change. You can change your mind pretty quick. Yeah. But heartfelt things are pretty much galvanized. And so I look for those opportunities, because I know if I can get you emotionally involved in a story, you're going to read the next one. Or if I can get you emotionally involved in a video, you're going to watch the whole thing. Or even with the television show, Outdoor Alabama. There's times when, a lot of people do the same thing with comedy and laughter. TK and Mike. I don't know if you remember those old guys. But Lord, they had people lined up at every show, and people would say, how do them guys come up with all that stuff? All that? They're not coming up with it. That's the way they are.
That's just them.
That's just them.
That's just them.
That's just them. And
I got about a half a dozen of my kinfolk that do the same thing.
A lot of people didn't know that early on with those guys, I was giving them the turkey footage and the duck footage and the deer footage from what I was shooting at Primos, just so we could be mentioned in it. It was marketing for us. I mean, no way you could ever get Will Primos and make people laugh like that, or me. I just, I had a little more dignity than that, I think. So,
those guys were a hoot.
But and the deal with Preston Pittman, after the book, I asked Preston, I said, do you think we could build a commemorative call? He said, sure. And we argued back and forth on the number and price and everything. And we built a short box, and boom, they're gone. They were gone in 2 months. So the next year he says, well, think we can do another one? I said, sure, let's do a pot call. So we did that, and they're gone. I think there's 5 or 6 that I wouldn't, I just held on to. And then we did the trumpet, and by then TFT was in full swing, and I didn't do a very good job marketing those. So I got quite a few trumpets, and then we did a long box and got quite a few of those. But I'll get back at it and get them out of here. I told Tess, obviously they're numbered 1 through 200. They're all made of bird's eye maple and walnut, and
Beautiful calls.
and they're killer calls too. Don't leave that out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
you killed that Rio with one of your trumpets.
Yeah.
Down in Texas.
Brandon was there. Brandon saw that bird, what that bird did.
Well, I know 3 of them, two from Mr. George and the one to Tess at the ranch that only had one gobbler at it the last morning.
And you used it on Matt's last gobbler too.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
so there was
what I told Tess. So this is a little funny. She was worried about all this inventory and the money we had invested in it. I getting on me, I need to get back to selling. I said, "Look, sweetheart, you look at Preston, you look at me. You know, one of us is going to kick the bucket, and the other's going to have. If it's me, those calls go way up. So, and when I'm gone, you got it all. So I wouldn't fret about it.
She's got to see it as an investment at this point.
I should be looking at the return when we're gone. She still got inventory.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. I know I got all 3. I love the pot call, which I'm a pot call guy. And the aluminum playing surface it's like no other. The sound that you get out of it is you can get a lot of rasp out of it for those guys that like it. So great book, great call set, Mr. Jolly. Kudos to you for that. I thoroughly enjoyed the book. I know Brandon did as well. My daughter started reading it. And it has enjoyed it as well. So good stuff.
Yeah. Well, everybody says you're going to write another one. I said, well, I don't think so. I just got too much going on with this. TFT has just become, my focal point right now. These turkeys getting this figured out and knowing that they're going to not go back where they came from. It's very important.
Yeah, I think at this point that, the proof is in the pudding as far as what TFT's done. If you're a turkey hunter in the United States and you haven't heard about TFT, then you're living under a rock at this point. So, and kind of going back and touching on what you were talking about earlier, Jolly, the fraternity. I mean, is a good example of what, with the inception of Harmony Game Calls was within just a few months of the inception of Turkeys for Tomorrow. So we've been a thing for nearly an identical amount of time. And I know that when it started coming up, on my news feed, we talked about it and was like, man, I'd love to do something, of course we all, all 3 of us became members really quick, but I wanted to do more. Brett wanted to do more and obviously Hunter did too. So we worked through the channels, finally found someone to talk to, and it didn't take long. And the 3 of us and Mr. Jolly and Tess met up on the side of the road one day, and immediately, kicked it off. Just like he said, we're just friends. It wasn't a us and y'all thing. It was all of us combined. So it is it's a good story to tell you that here we are. Me born in 1986 and. In the years that you just started professionally videoing, and we're essentially on the same team, and we figured it out real quick. So I'm thankful for the mindset that TFT and yourself and all the guys that work with the company now have, because it's a we're all in it together thing, and that's very obvious.
One of the things that I think is very important to the success there is the openness to anybody who wants to help. And you guys have been tremendous help. You work with the Year of the Hen stuff, the collectible call that y'all built, the team calls that y'all build. But one of the first things that we decided as a group that there would be no exclusives, none. So, in other words, Primos can't be the exclusive call company of TFT, or Realtree can't be the exclusive camo company, because we thought and we believe that little turkey egg, that little poult pipping out of that egg in that little briar patch, that turkey poult don't give a crap what color pants or what kind of call the person uses or wore who paid for that.
That's right.
So
That's right.
that means everybody can help, and it's going to take everybody. It's going to take everybody to fix it.
Yeah.
And that was really the message when we came and met you and Miss Tess for lunch that day. That was really the message that you told us, and I don't know, I didn't really know what to expect. I'll just be honest with you, didn't know what to expect, but it definitely wasn't the warm-hearted kindness that you and Miss Tess showed right off the bat. Just being normal people, I guess is the way you would call it, whatever that is.
Yeah.
But just, welcoming us, who was, in our eyes, we're nobody. We just started this call company as, some turkey hunters from Piedmont, Alabama. But, met up Mr. Ron Jolly and his wife, Miss Tess, and they were like, yeah, you can be just as much a part of it as anybody, jump in where you can. So, fortunately or unfortunately, maybe for Jolly, I don't know, I got a hold of his number and I started blowing him up with just, let's do this, Jolly, let's do this. We got to film this, Jolly, and just back and forth. And he just, calm down. We'll get there.
Yeah.
But
that's speaking from experience right there.
Yeah. Had a lot of ideas and a lot of things and just very eager to help and be a part of something bigger for the wild turkey. So that was a lot of fun in that process of time. And now getting to do some of the Year of the Hen stuff with Miss Tess and spending time with them has been a lot of good moments, I know, for me, learning and just slowing down and appreciating some of the pioneers of this sport of turkey hunting.
Yeah. Miss Tess has a good ability of showing you how to look through a set of glasses that you ain't never looked through before. So she'll make you appreciate a lot of things in a short amount of time. Guarantee you that.
That's the truth, for sure.
I say this all the time. I don't think there's a living human being who spent more time with undisturbed wild turkeys than she has in the last 30 years. I mean, she can tell you things that they're fixing to do before they do it. And that's why she's so good with capturing it. She's been around them so much. And Tess is blessed with the patience of Job. She don't get in a hurry. She don't get frustrated. She does her homework and she puts herself where she needs to be. And when the turkeys do what she knows they're going to do, she's there. So
yeah,
I'm not quite built that way. I had to push things a little bit, but I slowed down.
Well, me and Brandon have adopted your famous saying, "Must be present to win."
Absolutely,
must be present. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I will say this: my role at TFT is taken a different direction. I pushed it as chairman of the board and whatever that was. We took a little criticism about our original 11-member board, but I always defended it by saying we only had 13 to pick from. So, we had to imagine being one of the two that didn't make it. So,
yeah.
But it quickly got to where I was over my head. I mean, I didn't know the next steps to take. I didn't know, how to manage it. So God, again, provided the answer. And he brought Jason Lapartis along. And I used to think that we needed to keep a certain percentage of those original board members involved so we didn't have mission drift. I don't want this thing to go anywhere except where it's going. And I don't worry about that with Lapartis. I don't worry about that anymore. So I can go do the things that I do for TFT now and not feel overwhelmed and like an idiot most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I know.
obviously we were
Go-
we got in a little bit earlier with some different people that were involved, and I will tell you from my perspective, it is in a lot better hands now than what it was 2 years ago. So things
Yeah.
are really going good now. So
Jason's very firm and passionate about that it's not going to drift.
Yeah.
yeah,
And he's, I mean, I've worked very closely with Jason, uh, for the majority of the time, I guess. Me and Jason had hours and hours, many conversations throughout the weeks that he had just come on, and we had talked about this year the hen stuff, and just had a lot of collaborations along the way. And he made it very clear that this is the way that it is, this is the way that we're going, and there's not going to be anything that's going to persuade that any differently.
Yep.
So I felt like, okay, it's in good hands, and I'm sure that it makes you happy, Jolly, for sure.
Absolutely, it does. And there's so many things that we could have done differently had we had the money to do them or the support to do them. There's so many things that Jason could do differently and wants to do it, but he's got to raise that money and get this thing. Jason has spent the last year building a foundation for TFT so it don't crumble under its own weight, and that's what I didn't know how to do. New board members coming on are going to be a big help. The programs that he's leading us toward with budgeting ourselves and projecting and building, actually building a business out of it, and the business model that we will operate next year and beyond to achieve set goals and reach for them. So, I really feel Jason was a really good find, and we took stepped out on a little limb, put a lot of weight on that and took a big gamble, and we're happy with it now. So, but I learned a long time ago, if you don't take a chance, you're going to stay the same or go back.
Yeah,
absolutely. Right. I agree with that. I know TFT has given me a great outlet to produce turkey content, which is my favorite kind of content to produce. So I'm thankful for that as well. Just helping me in that process of being an outlet, I guess you would say. So, well, Jolly, Brandon's doing cartwheels over there, something, isn't he?
Rookie move. Battery's dead.
Well, Jolly, we'll wrap this thing up. We don't want to take up too much more of your time. Is there anything back to topic at hand as far as filming and producing in the outdoors? Is there anything that you would recommend, anything like that to youngsters out there that have, obviously they may not be watching The Truth, but they may be watching the television series or watching people on YouTube or something like that, filming these hunts and things like that? Is there anything that you would have to say to those folks
if
you're looking to get into this?
If you're just starting out, never run autofocus in the woods. Don't do it. Get yourself a tripod and use it. And I always treated a camera like I would my bow or my gun. I was hunting when I was behind the camera. I was hunting through that lens. And if you can do that and not be jumping all around and grabbing on everything in between you on your focus, you can do content. It's so much easier these days. And I mean, like I said, you can do it with that right there. And you stole a little of my thunder, Brett, when you said must be present to win. because that is the one thing that you
Yeah.
never win unless you're there.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
have definitely adopted that saying because it is so true. It is so true, and to have the patience to just there's some things, Jolly, that I see that you capture, and I'm just like, God, Jolly he captures some of the coolest stuff. I don't know how he does it, but I think a lot of it is obviously your motto must be present to win, but just settling down, spending more time, even like with just filming turkeys. When you've got a flock out there, just not fixating on trying to just this turkey, this turkey, this turkey. Maybe just find a turkey that's doing some things or whatever, and just kind of stay with that and just be patient. Because, like, I know for me, when there's a flock out there, I'm looking for somebody that's doing something just to capture something really quick. And I've come to a realization that if I'll just observe more, and learn the turkey more, that I can be there before he ever does what he's going to do, or before the hen does what she's going to do. Or you start, like what you was talking about with Miss Tess, you start reading what's going to happen, instead of just getting out there and trying to just point and things like that.
I really struggled at the start when I started using DSLRs. So different than a video camera, and I'm grateful for the size and everything, but they're cumbersome to me. So I've gotten okay with it now. It took me a lot of trial and error, but and Brett helped me with some of it, and so I'm comfortable with it. But if I had my druthers, I'd have me a real nice, like red or something like that. I think I could do some pretty stuff. But for now, just make the most of what we got.
Yeah, absolutely. B. Randon, you got anything else?
No, I think he's answered all the questions that I've had. I do have one more, Jolly. Did you or do you have any role models? Anybody that you looked up to in the past to kind of set your sights on where you wanted to be?
My dad. He had nothing to do with what I did for a career, but he inspired me to be the best hunter I could be. And he taught me so much about reading sign and the patience that it takes to be where you, and how to get where you need to be and be there at the right time. When he found out I was going to work for Primos, he says, "You going to be telling everybody everything I told you?" I said, "Probably have to." He said, "Well, I hope you've learned enough." And he never went turkey hunting with me again. He still loved me and I still loved him, but he wasn't going to show me anything else. So,
that's tough love right there.
But like I said, when I broke in, the Wenzel brothers were doing a little stuff with videos and some, I guess, anybody remember the American Sportsman with Kurt Gowdy? It was a Sunday afternoon show every Sunday, and he was hunting or fishing somewhere with celebrities all over the globe. And I would absolutely burn the barn down to watch that show. I just loved it. So I would call Kurt Gowdy one of my early heroes, a totally different, aspect of a career path. But, like I said, the only one there was Cuz, and he was just there for 1 year, so that I knew. And then Joan.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Well, good deal. Jolly, I appreciate you greatly taking time out of your day to join us here on the podcast and just go through some stuff with us about filming in your day, and because this is a big part of who we are and a big part of what a lot of hunters are out there these days. A lot of people want to do it. I know I talked to some along the way, younger folks my age and coming up, and they're like, yeah, I want to do it, but when that turkey gobbles, I end up throwing the dang camera in the ditch and just going towards the turkey or something. I was like, well, it's definitely a commitment to do this, especially self-filming. Self-filming is really tough with trying to call, kill, and film all at the same time and actually capture anything. So there's a skill in that for sure, and there's some that have done really well doing it, and and we're still, I know, learning a lot in that process. But appreciate you taking time out of your day, hanging out with us. Always enjoy talking to you, Mr. Jolly. Sure we'll have you back on in the near future. Would love to have Tess on as well, so talk a little bit of photography with her as well, and her life in the outdoors, because I know it's been a big inspiration to me and Brandon both. So
yeah,
but
both of you.
If y'all don't have anything else, I'll wrap this thing up.
I appreciate y'all having me, guys.
Yep, I'm good. Thank you, Jolly.
10-4. Appreciate everybody out there watching. Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Jolly. Appreciate everybody watching. Like, subscribe, hang out with us here on the podcast as we continue on having guests each and every week, hopefully. But anyway, thumbs up, like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week.